Okay. More than my fingers are crossed right now that you're hearing me and seeing me. Every indication I have is that you are until somebody gives me a thumbs up or sounded good. I'm not asking you to tell me you look good because we know better than that. Are you hearing me? Because I had another issue. All good. Thank you, Terry. Had another issue with our municipality and our power supply here. And this time the power interruption was so brief. I mean, like it was less than a half of a second, just enough to make the lights flicker. TVs didn't even go off, but it killed the PC and it corrupted everything in the PC. I lost so much stuff, it ain't even funny. I went back, I spent over 5 hours a day trying to get everything working right. Finally ended up trying to do a system restore, and it came back with an error code. And I asked ChatGPT what that error code meant, and it said catastrophic error. And I was like, "Oh Lord, that don't sound good." Catastrophic error, and it interrupted everything to stop the restore. And that was the second restore I tried to do. But apparently, the catastrophic failure that took place during the second restore got rid of everything that was being a problem that interrupted the first restore that allowed the first attempt to pick up where it left off and finish restoring. And I got some of my stuff back. But half the programs wouldn't work. The updates that I'd already done, they're all gone. And something else we're going to do tonight then is, because I've seen so many people complaining about problems with doing the update from 1.7 or from 2.0 to 2.1. Well, we're going to do a live update here. And because right now I've got 1.7 up and running. And, it's a good, easy to view screen. I've got good size, color palettes, and my tools are nice. And I can read my fonts. And let's face it, boys and girls, we don't wear these for looks. And we're lucky if these do enough. And with the new settings that will be brought into your LightBurn, if you import it and allow it to make the changes it wants to, you can forget about it. It's redonkulous. You can't see nothing, can't read nothing. Everything becomes microscopic and disappears for us old farts. So we're going to walk through a reset, and I'll show you. Don't do this if you've done it. And in fact, and then what I'm going to do, especially since we got the guru here tonight, Chris is in the chat. We're gonna download the 2.1. We're gonna I think it's 2.1. Yep, download it. In fact, I think it's now they've already got 2.1.01 out. We'll download that. And then I'm going to tell you, tell this no, don't do this. But then we're going to go ahead and do it anyway, so that if you have already done it and you've got those teeny tiny little bitty everythings, try to show you how you can get that back and make it to where you can see everything. Because it's a problem. It's a problem. We're going to briefly talk about the actual design we did, and we'll have to get the 2.1.01 up and running to show and talk about the integration with Cuddle. And a lot of you out there have already seen this week's video, and you commented, you use Cuddle and use Cuddle a lot. I looked at it once and didn't particularly care for it because I like to design my files. I like to design the work. I take greater pleasure out of actually getting the creation done than I do in cutting and putting the piece together. I like it once I've got a fully functional design. I'm like, okay, wow, I did that. But this was a pretty neat design, and they've been everywhere. You see them all over Etsy, and this is in Cuddle. And I did a video this week on this particular project and how to put it together. But then I was like, okay, well, I had just a flat 8x10 piece, and I didn't put a hanger on it or nothing like that. And I said, well, I want to put an easel. In fact, I was going to just do a regular easel. When I've got plenty of them, I can cut them out and be done with it. And then on Cuddle, I seen an easel that I said, oh, yeah, that's a pretty neat concept. But instead of using the one that was there, I did it from scratch. And it's just a kickstand that mounts on the back there. Get my fat fingers out of the way. And it pivots and it lets it sit at the proper angle. Well, there's already a kickstand like that on Cuddle. You don't have to download any, or don't have to design anything. You just put in your measurements, what you want to do, where you want to fit it, and it'll download. There you go. But I designed it from scratch. And I do that because I enjoy doing it. And then two, while I was doing this, there was something that came up during the design process. I was like, man, I really need to do this. And I don't want to do all of that. I just need to do this one little piece. I need to, how am I going to get that to work like that? How am I? Oh yeah, Control 2. I said, well, Control 2, what I did? And I didn't know, hadn't done it, tried it, and it did. It worked perfect. I don't even know if that was what anybody had in mind when they created that tool, that function, Control 2. But it worked perfectly for what I needed it to do. So I was like, huh. And then I was needing to lengthen the actual kickstand. And in the past, what I've done, anytime if you were designing and this is straight up and down, it's perfectly vertical. But this line, this kickstand is out here at about a 20 or 25 degree angle. If you grab that bottom of that kickstand and try and stretch it down, it doesn't pull it straight down. You have to put that straight up and down to pull that straight down. But and what I would do there to be, okay, if this is 25 degrees and I need to rotate the whole thing negative 25 degrees, get that straight up and down and stretch that out like taffy, and then rotate it back and piece. But I found a shortcut for that doing this. And I was like, huh, that's slick. All right, done. Easy peasy. Because as you're all aware of, and I've told you many times, I'm one more lazy SOB. I'm going to find the easiest, quickest, simplest way to do something. And that wasn't difficult. If it was here, 25, rotate it negative 25, stretch it, rotate it back 25, done. I ain't had to do all that now. I figured out how to do it without having to rotate it and get it perfectly straight and not elongate things. So we're going to look at that too. So we're going to upgrade to 2.1.01. Then we're going to screw it up on purpose so that if any of you have already done it and it's already got a screwed up screen that you can't see, between me fumbling through it and Chris helping me if I get lost, we'll get it back to where you can see it. And then we'll, get into a quick demonstration of how Cuddle works. We're not going to go through the whole process, just show that integration. And then if you're interested and you want to see that design process for that kickstand, because like I said, it's there. You don't have to design it. You can go download it. But if you want to see the process that I went through to create that and the roadblocks to watch out for, we can do that too. Because like I said in the email that went out to everybody, you may not give a rat's butt about making a kickstand like that, but the different techniques that I discovered in creating this might be something that would benefit you in your design work. So, we'll go from there. Turn on the comments. Okay. Comments. There we are. Sorry about that. Who was that? Three Dogs. Sorry, buddy. Sorry. Chris says, I'd rather than rotating object, I rotate a guideline. Well, this is what and I've done that before too, Chris. But what I did here to do this is even slicker. And then depending on what we got time wise and who's here and who wants to, I have teased y'all, but I wrote a book, and this is let's put this up here. This is the first of 3 books. This is the first of a trilogy. And let's see the glare off the pages. It's there. The text is there. The text is I'm upside down, but there you go. You can see there. It's a complete book. This particular book is a little over 200 pages, but some things happened because I didn't know what I was doing because I've never done it before, and I didn't know what not to do because I didn't know to do it when I needed to do it or should have done it, and I didn't do it to begin with. But the whole thing was done and saved in a really long text document. Once I had the text document done, great. I needed to get from a text document to a 6x9 format for a paperback book. And that meant formatting the margins, the gutter margins different than the other margin, this and that, all kinds of crap you got to worry about. And then plus you're taking a text document and then you're going to convert it to all that. It's got to be formatted, spaced right, and then apply page numbers to it, create the table of contents, make sure the table of contents, all kinds of stuff got to go on to get it formatted for the paperback. And I trusted an AI to do that. And if you know anything about me and AIs, I don't trust AI as much as I can pick it up and throw it. And it burnt me. The AI, in addition to formatting the book for me, it decided to take it upon itself to go in and edit all of the perceived errors and clean it up. So a lot of the content got missing, gone, and or the intent behind it got totally erased because it cleaned up things for me. So I had to go back and rewrite it. I didn't have to rewrite the whole thing. I had to go and I screwed up something I tell you to do in LightBurn, and I should have done and I didn't do here, was I gave the AI the original and only text document to format. I didn't have a backup and I didn't have a copy. Dum, da dum, dum, dum. So the new one's finished and ready to be published. And I anticipate having quantity available and back. And since the very first chapter in the book starts out with, I was born on July 7th. And this book starts from the day I was born. That's the intended launch date, is July 7th this year. And I've already got let's see here. Let's do this. Yep. In addition to that, I've also got to create all the stuff for the website. And the website I'm getting there. It's my first book and getting set up for paper, 6x9 paperback, signed paperback, and an audiobook. But I'm not ready to pre-launch it yet. It's coming. Those days are very, very close, and we'll get that up. And anybody who's wanting to go ahead and pre-order and know that it's not going to be available until late June, early July, we'll make that happen. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. All right. So now let's jump over here. Well, before I do that, let me go back and look at any comments. All right, got that. Got Chris said he'd much rather be that I've done the guidelines too. Let's see here. Micro Sloth Publisher does all that formatting for you. I'm using an independent publisher, but I like trying to stay close to home. Literally close to home. I went to multiple publishers here in town to try and get something done. Couldn't find anything here in this podunk hillbilly redneck town that could do it. But I did find somebody just up the road a little bit in Greensboro, I think. Because see, when they're close by, if I need to go slap somebody in the head, I can. If I'm dealing with somebody that's in Fresno or upstate New York, I ain't going to go to the trouble. But I'll drive to Greensboro and smack somebody. In fact, there's a chapter in here that talks about me driving 5 hours to smack somebody. I have done it. But I did, again, I did all this myself without knowing that they could do that for you. I didn't know what I didn't know. That's okay though, because I'm planning on doing 3 of these, and by the time I'm already probably 20% through the second one. I'm already writing the second one before I've even got this one in print yet. All right. Comments. The second book will be called The Sofa Strikes. No. It'll Be Better Tomorrow is an actual quote from my father. And we won't go into how and when, but at one point in the book, he tells me it'll be better tomorrow. And that's where the title came from. And the second book is How I Became a Hobo. How I Became a Hobo is the second book. Publisher, as in the software, not a book publisher. Oh, okay. Okay. Then we'll get to the prequels and the sequels. Yeah, we're gonna, which I think honestly, I would have been happy if they would have just stuck with the first 3. Yeah, Star Wars, Empire, and what was it? Empire Strike, and what was it? I forgot the 3. Star Wars, Empire Strike Back, and y'all have to tell me. I've forgotten now. It's been so daggum long. All right, but no, I've been happy if they stayed with the first 3. All right, let's go over here to LightBurn, and we're going to update from 1.7. Who's going to play you in the movie? Haha. We're going to go from 1.7 to 2.1. So we're going to go over here and here. And I'll leave the comments on for now. And if I get in the way, we'll have to pull it off because I don't want anybody to miss anything that messes the screen up or anything. All right, so we're in 1.7.08. I'm going to go over to help, check for updates. And it says, yes, there's one available. Would you like to download it? Yes, we would. Let's download it. Please close all your open instances of LightBurn so you can install it. Done. And now I've got my download file. Where downloads? Bring you here. All right, 2.1.01. Here we go. You want to let LightBurn do this? Yes, we do. Yes, next, please. Click next. Yes, create my desktop icon and install. Installing, extracting, and all this is taking place off on the other screen that you can't see. All right, done, finished, and launch LightBurn. All right, now this should populate on the screen you can see. Nope, it didn't. First thing, we get our end user license agreement. And I can't bring this other one over till I do this. So accept. Now I'll bring over this one. Now this is what probably 99% of you are going to see when you download 2.1. None of the connected displays meet the minimum recommended resolution. You can still use the application, but some user interface elements may not be visible, that's awesome, or may behave incorrectly. The following setting changes can be automatically applied to improve usability. Decrease the user interface font size, decrease the toolbar icon size, and use minimal dock layout, and click accept to apply these changes and restart the application. And then click ignore to continue. Now, if you accept, it's going to make all these things tiny, and we're going to do that. If you tell it to ignore that, it's going to bring it back in. So if you don't want the headaches that we're getting ready to experience here, click ignore. But we're going to go back over here and we're going to click accept. And I get another warning. And you can't even read it. It's so small because it's changed the font size so small. Let's see if I can zoom in. Nope, you can't even zoom in. Says none of the connected displays. Same thing again. You can still use the application, but some user interface elements may not be viable and may behave incorrectly. So it's all kinds of problems. Okay. Do not show me this again. Go away. All right. So now it opened, and I am going to turn the comments off for a second. That is impossible to see or use. I don't care if you're 18-year-olds and you got 20/10 vision. You can't see that. You can't use that. If you had the screen completely memorized and knew where everything was at, everything is so small, you got to be super uber precise with your mouse, your cursor, to activate anything. So this is not acceptable. And I have seen tons and tons of people commenting that, hey, I've downloaded this 2.1 and I can't use it. I need the old stuff back. Well, in the warning, it told you it was going to scale down the font size. It was going to scale down the tool size. It was going to change your docking menus. It was going to do a whole lot of stuff to make everything as small and as compact as possible to try to get everything on here. We're going to go in here and see if we can fix all of that in the settings. So if you find yourself in this situation, here's what you need to do. Go into the gears, I believe it is. Come on, there we go, gears. It's a gears, yep, and then display. And the first thing I'm going to do is we got cursor and looks like cursor and nodes, the toolbar and icon size, and then over here is font size. So we're going to increase our toolbar and icon size by just grab that, start sliding that up, and you can see that in real time. It's starting to increase your icons. That's way big. And if you get it too big, your stuff's going to start disappearing off the screen. See how this is now you at the edge of the screen, and that's not even everything. So I'm going to bring it down from large to normal. And it says there on the screen normal. Now I'm going to change my font size. It currently says 6 or 8. I can't really see there. But I'm going to increase the font size, and it's not in real time. And I'm going to take it up to what I think is 18. That might be too big. In fact, let's go back to there, 16. Okay, there it goes. It did go in real time. All right. And that looks doable. And say, okay. Now, this is not like it used to be. It's a little different on my cuts and layers down here. But it's still doable. But this new software, the new version, it will, because this is why I went away from 2.1 initially. Every once in a while, that color palette will just drop off. It just goes away. And I'm pretty sure that's because of the limitations of Windows, the resolution, and the scaling that takes place in the software. So in and with that, and tonight while we're working, you may see just that palette disappears, and then I'll show you. All you gotta do is minimize and restore that, and it comes right back. And that's what we will run into here in just a little bit. Return of the Jedi. Thank you. I knew there was something on there. Chris says, if I wrote a 3-part book 2.5. Let's see, what's that say now? If I wrote a 3-part book 2.5 of book 3 would be 90% blacked out from from his baggy days. I hear you, brother. I hear you. I seen your comment there. What's it? What? When and why would you? Oh, for the depth mask, is that for the 3D printing or the 3D illusion stuff that I've never got into? Is that where you would use a depth mask? Is for those grayscale engravings that create the 3D illusions? Not sure when you'd use that because I know nothing about those. I have not gone down that avenue because I think those are pretty time consuming. From the evidence I've had with my experience of doing images, I would think doing a grayscale with that would take a long time to do anything of any real size. Yeah, and I'm right there with. And Chris, I tell you what, if right now, I last week when I thought my batteries was going out in the mouse, and we changed batteries and all that. Didn't matter. I thought, and once that was out, I said, well, you know what? I know my laptop has power saving functions on the USBs. Maybe the USBs ports were going to sleep and causing the mouse to drop out because it's a USB wireless mouse. So I went in and turned all the power saving functions off. That ain't it. And you've already seen multiple times tonight that the mouse just won't do anything. If this computer is just getting too old and too outdated, and yeah, it's going to go bye-bye. And we'll upgrade to something that's more LightBurn friendly. Because he says this sort of things are why I'm dumping Windows on all of my non-LightBurn computers. Yep. Yeah, he did say depth map, didn't he? But I just don't know when and what you would use the depth map. And then Chris says, yeah, depth maps would be great add for web tools for UV lasers. Okay, so actually, well, no, that's just it. So that's something else. I've not done any UV and I haven't done any grayscale. I'm not sure when a depth map would come into play, but and the fact that right here, and let me turn the comments back on. Right here, when we click on web tools, it creates a drop-down menu where you have to go down and click on Cuddle. Well, the fact that it's set up that way tells me they have plans to click on web tools and you have options, Cuddle, depth maps, or whatever you want. There's going to be all kinds of different things. Someone mentioned it'd be nice to have a box generator that was integratable into LightBurn. I can see all of those things being web tools integrated into that menu. All right. All right. So while we're here, let's just go over here and click on Cuddle. And it tells you, hey, this has not LightBurn. It's a third party. Anything you agree with is between you and them, and we ain't got nothing to do with it. And then it opens up a window within LightBurn. But this is actually Cuddle's website. It'll take you directly to their website. I'm pretty sure that with the 2.1 download, you have a 7-day free trial with Cuddle. I have already gone to the profile page. Yeah, I've got Cuddle Pro. And I have not fully explored this yet because they do have some areas where you can go in and do some creating. And I'll have to explore that and see if their creation page allows you to see things a little differently than what you do in LightBurn. Because when I talked to them, that's kind of what they were alluding. But some of the stuff they were talking about was up here. And so there may be some abilities within Cuddle's design software that LightBurn doesn't have that I may go, okay, now that's pretty slick. So I will be doing more with Cuddle and its integration in LightBurn, and probably those will be some of the weekly videos. But you find your project, different templates that they have available. This particular one that I did was the Scrabble. There it is, that one. And it's really, really cool. I'll just do it I'm not going to change it or modify it. We're going to say this is exactly what I want. And okay, I've already set it up and this is the family that I want it to be. Send it to LightBurn. and it comes right into LightBurn with everything ready to go. But there is one thing that I learned from doing this particular template that I would do on every one of them going forward. I would not use their score line for placing the inner piece. There's a score line on this backboard that tells you where to place this. You don't need that. That's a waste of time. And because it's a completely free floating piece, even with that score line, you can get it screwed up there. You can get it a little bit crooked. I did. So what I did, or what I would do going forward, is I would simply come in here, ungroup this, ungroup that. I wouldn't even bother with the score line, just get rid of it. Then I would come in here, draw me a straight line from here down to here, over to here, and up to there. And same thing here. Put those on a cut line, the cut path, just like the rest of it. That and that be on a cut. Now that's going to cut out. And once all that cuts out, this will cut out and fall away, leaving just 4 corners. And back, let's see here. Back up. What'd I do with it? I think I carried it away. But you use that waste to drop right back in on top of your frame and use that to place your piece. That's your alignment. That's your piece. You don't have to score nothing or grave nothing. There it is. You just drop it in. It's perfectly aligned, perfectly centered, and then you lift your waist back out and done. So, and the reason I put those lines around Nine and Papas and grandkids, by cutting all that away and let all that just fall out, now you just got just 4 nice clean corners to position your piece in that waist. All right. So let's see here. I thought they might have included a nesting option in this release under web tools. They've got Quick Nest. Have you not seen Quick Nest? Surely you've used Quick Nest. Quick Nest is ridiculous. I love Quick Nest. I already did a video on that, and I think I talked about it in one of the lives. But if y'all haven't seen Quick Nest, we can show you that too before we go into any design work. If we go into any design work, the instant I saw that score line in your video, I thought, why? For the reason you found. Yeah. Thanks. I was wondering how I would get those things big again. I'm 79. I'm telling you, that's nuts. But if you haven't had a chance, Carl, go over and try that. Those two. In your gears, in your display, toolbar, icon size, and font size. And they were in real time. The font size was a little bit delayed. They were in real time and they did not require a restart. Some of the items do require restarting for them to take place, but those did not. Yeah, well, I guess, it's just a side effect, a symptom of aging. I'm wearing my readers, I'm wearing my glasses, but I've got a magnifying glass on my nightstand. I got a magnifying glass sitting in there beside the recliner. I got magnifying glasses sitting everywhere. All right. So, let's get rid of that. Do you want to look at the design process that I did with that kickstand? We're at 35 minutes. We got plenty of time to do that. It's not difficult, but there are a couple of things that you go, okay, well, that's easy peasy, but there's something to go, oh, I didn't realize I had to do that or this or that. We're going to do it. Yeah, we're going to do it. Because the new ways of learning to do some things. I want to show you those just for the heck of it. All right. So, well, before I do that, let's go back over and let's go look at the physical piece. All right. So the physical piece, a couple of things to think about your actual kickstand. The higher up you place it, the longer it's got to be. The longer it's got to be in order to create the angle you want it to be, the wider it's going to, the distance is going to be even bigger here at the bottom, which equates to how much room is it going to occupy on the shelf? How deep is it going to need to sit? Because right there, fully extended, that's about 4 inches, give or take. And if I went up with it even higher and had it come out at that same angle, that's going to be another, 2 or 3 inches. The lower you get with it, the less depth or shelf space you get, but also the more unstable it becomes. So you want to try and find about a happy medium, at least from everything that I can, that's not going from any testing. It's just from a little bit of common sense and looking at how unstable it could possibly be if you had it too small. So I went with just a little bit over half the height. I went up about 60% of this is an 8x10. So I started out with about 6 inches. 60% was what I said. I want to start there and see how that's going to work out. So before I even began to fabricate this, I started thinking about, all right, what kind of potential roadblocks am I going to run into? Shelf space being one of them. I'm designing this so I can set it on the shelf instead of hanging it on the wall. But if somebody's going to put it on their mantelpiece or put it on a small bookcase that's only got a 4-inch or a 4.5-inch shelf, a little narrow, then this can't be huge. It's got to be kind of compact. And the beauty of this thing too is, it does fold flat, or within, I think about 10 millimeters off the back surface. You could put a wall hanger on here that was just as proud as this and have the option of being a wall hanger or a kickstand. But before I even begin the design, I'm thinking, okay, how long, how high, how tall, and why? So I came up with about 60% of their overall height for the length of that. So I started with my kickstand and I said, okay, it's going to be 1 inch wide and 6 inches tall. So it's 25.4 millimeters, or a width of 1 and a height, and I need to unlock my aspect ratio 6. So there's my kickstand, ready to go. All right, done. Now I just need to put some hinges on it. It's ready to roll. All right. And so rectangle. Okay, my backboard for where I'm going to mount that to, how big does that need to be? If I put it right there, it's in the center. Like, okay, well, the hinge, I want to do something pretty substantial. The tabs, the size of the tabs, it's going to protrude through the pivoting holes. I want those to be 10 inches in diameter. And so let's start with designing the pivot point so I know how big that back piece needs to be. So let's grab the circle, and I'm going to draw out a 10 millimeter circle. Lock my aspect ratio, 10 millimeters. All right, so there is the hole that the little tab's going to stick through. So now let's go back to the rectangle. We're going to draw out a perfect square, starting right here in the center of my circle. And I'm going to come out to look about right there. We'll start there. What is that? We'll go 20 mil. Anchor point in the middle to keep it drawing into the middle, and 20 mil. And if that's 20 mil, then halfway across is 10. So let's do a radius right here. And they changed in 2.1, they changed the radius tool. you've got this funky looking shape now. It says round, click corners to round them over, but you have to click on it, and that will open up your radius to where you can set the size. And I'll do 5.5. We'll do that. We'll do 5 mil there, 5 mil there. Just rounds that over. And that in fact, that looks all right. That'll work. So I don't want to group it yet. So there is the actual pivot piece. And let's see here. What's this? Updated to 2.1.01. I don't have web tools. I don't know how you wouldn't, because that's part of the menu. That's web tools should be right beside laser tools. Make sure that the top of your ID on your up here, make sure it says LightBurn 2.1 or 2.1.01. Make sure you're actually in 2.1 and not 2.0. And you should have web tools right there beside laser tools. I've never heard of that before, Miss Jean. All right. Well, if we have time, well, I've got video on it, but if we have time, we'll look at it. And it's a known glitch. What's a known glitch? All right. Had to reopen LightBurn and found it. Okay, very good. All right. So now moving on to this. So if this was a 20 millimeter square originally, then I can put a decent size tab on here. And Pop says he doesn't have web tools on his either. Well, do what Miss Jean did. Close out of it and come back into it and see if that fixes yours. And maybe that's what Steve Smith was talking about it being a known glitch. I haven't had that problem. I'm curious, Miss Jean, what operating system are you using? Are you using Windows? And same to you, Pop, because I haven't had that problem. But Pop, close out of Windows or close out of LightBurn and open it back up and see if it populates. And I'm curious what each of you, which operating system you guys are using. So back to this. If it's 20 mil, I can put a 10 millimeter tab on here. And using my docking or my snapping cursor, I don't even have to use any alignment tools. I can just grab that and look for that circle right there. I know it's perfect. Then just grab them both and weld it together. It's done. I didn't worry about the height because I can set the height with the resizing slots and selection tool when I'm ready. But I'll take that, duplicate it, and then I've got two pieces there. It's ready to go. So now I've said, all right, I put a 10 millimeter tab on there. I need a 10 millimeter slot over here. And I'm not going to worry about my aspect or my width. I'll just get my height, 10 millimeter. That's the width, dummy. Get the height at 10 mil and tell that to go to, I got selection tool. There we go. Delete that. Take that and tell it to go to the horizontal center. And I'll take, actually, you know what? All right. This doesn't need to be that big. So if this is a 10 millimeter slot, and then it's going to be 10, 15, 20, it's going to be a total of 20 for that whole tab. And I want to have it nice and secure. I'll do 26 total height. So the height is going to be, we'll unlock the aspect ratio, do 26 mil. And let's take, if that's 26 mil, half of that's 13. And I'm curious here what y'all guys are saying here. All right, so Miss Jean says she's with Windows. Uh, the missing web tool, I was missing it. It looked it up, and it said it was said to update again, and it fell right in. Huh. Still no web tools. Restarted, still not there. So Steve says you might run the update again. Yes, had to update again. Okay, not just opening it, you had to update it again. Having to close and reopen is generally due to the amount of free memory constraints, but they're having to actually re-update it. And it's not available to those on the core version. 2.1 is, but Web Tools is not. That's interesting. I had not seen that. Okay. All right. So go back over here, my positioning. I know that this is 1 inch, and this is going to be around 3 millimeters on either side. So that's going to be around 25.4 plus 6, 31.4 mil. And then I'll give it another 531, so 42 mil. We'll go 42 mil. Width, 42 mil. There we go. So now I can take, and here's where I can use the guidelines. I'll grab me a guideline, select it, hold shift, select that, and tell it to go to the horizontal center. Done. Make sure that that's in. Oh, come on, grab it. Yep. And I know I've told you guys and gals this before, but those guidelines, they're actually just lines that are 18 miles long. If you zoom way out on LightBurn, you'll see how long they actually are. They're nothing special. They're just, we select that and we zoom all the way out and see it's just a great big old long, huge line. Come on now, where'd my mouse go? There it is. There we go. And if you want to be able to, you don't need that whole thing. All you need is that. Well, you can do a couple different things. You can come in here. In fact, you know what? For this particular case, I wouldn't even use it. I just take that. I just draw me a line that I needed. My mouse is sleeping on me. Just draw a straight line out. Done. Select that and tell it to go to the center of that rectangle. Bullseye it. So now it's at exactly center everywhere. So now if you grab your snapping tool for there, and you can snap it to the center of that guideline right there, it's centered. Then you can grab this one, pull it up here and grab the snapping cursor right there, snap it to that corner. That's perfect. Control D, duplicate it, bring it over here, grab that snapping cursor and snap it. And that's right where you need it. You don't have to question it. That's going to be perfectly centered. But there's a problem. This doesn't need to be centered. We need to have a 10 millimeter slot here. So if we bring this piece and align it to the top of that piece, now that looks mo better. And what you can do is select this and this, duplicate it, Control D. No duplicate. I hit the wrong. I hit Alt D instead of Control D. Cancel that. Control D. Now it's duplicated. And then hold shift and grab my kickstand and weld it together. Now, when I move my kickstand out of the way, I've got my ears. I've got my pivot points for my kickstand. And I've got my slots for my kickstand. And dadgummit, this mouse is driving me nuts. Guidelines are 20 meters long. The actual reason they were done that size, just can't remember what it was. Oh, there was an actual reason. Yeah, I go with 18 miles long. Yeah, 18 miles, 20 meters. You know, yeah, six one, half a dozen the other. But they are efficient. They work. They do everything you need them to do. But the point I was going to point out was, when you use those, if you bring a guideline down, right now it's selected. And if you zoom out far enough, you can see, well, there's the center right there. That's what that cursor or that little dot, that's the center of that line. So if you were to take and you wanted to center, I got to update that in the settings for this. If you wanted to center that in here and bullseye it, then that'll bring that very center to there. And the same thing when you pull in your vertical, it puts your vertical down here at 0, 0. That's your center. So if you selected that line and told it to go to center of that, that'll bring it up. Now both of those lines, those crosshairs, are going to be right in the center of that square. All right. So now back to this squirrel. So I duplicated those and then welded it to my kickstand. And now I've got these ready to go. They're going to glue in and that's going to glue in. Put that one on each side and it's ready to go, right? Nah. Far from it. Because if you assembled this and cut it out like it is now, your kickstand, see how this is proud up here? It's proud so that when you rotate that out, it comes into contact with the back of that board. If you left it to where it was the same height all the way across, this would just come out and pivot all the way up to 90 degrees and all the way back up to 180 degrees. This has to come out beyond that point to give you a stopping point. But how far does it need to come out? Oh my. Yeah, I think maybe you asked that in the comments and on the last video. I think that's a goof from my video switcher. It's not anything that I set. I think it's just it was like that with the last video switcher I had, and it's not something that I changed, and I don't know how to correct it or make it any different. It's not manila for me. It's as white as it can be. It's only for the rebroadcast that you see it as had a little hint of yellow to it. So, yeah, no, it's not even in themes. It's something that, because to me, it's as white as a ghost, and it's not, and it doesn't appear yellow anywhere except in the restream. So it's something that's done by the switcher I've got. Okay, so let's get back over here and figure this out. And then plus, I've already changed the height of this. It's no longer, well, let's see, I had it at 6 inches, but and maybe it still is, but I moved it up. And so the actual length is not where I need it to be, or maybe it is. We don't know. We're going to find out. I'm going to group this. All right. And now I want to figure out the angle and then the height of how far that needs to be extended for a stopping point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a profile. Actually, yeah. What is this one? This one is 42 to the 26. So we'll do a 26 by 3 to create a side profile look of that. 26 by 3. So that's looking at the side of this piece right here. And this piece Height is 152.4. There's a profile of that piece. Now, if I want that to sit at about a 13-degree angle, I'm going to rotate this counterclockwise, -13, and that's going to sit there. And if stupid, come on, go away. I got to go in and change that in these settings, but I ain't going to do it right now. In fact, what I can do is I can say this is 10 by 3. I'm actually going to tell that one to be 2 so it can really stand out when we can see it. And I'll put that in the bullseye of that. So there's the slot where this piece is going to pivot. And if this, and actually it's not. I forgot to put the profile of the actual hinge. So that's where you see that's where you start to see where you have your problem. So this piece is in fact, you know what we'll do? We'll go ahead and resize that to make it 3 mil. Tools, resize slots and selection, the tab height 3.9, and we're going to make it 3. Increase our tolerance until we find it. There it is. Apply. Okay. Get rid of that one. All right. So this is 23 millimeters tall from the bottom of the tab out. And I'm going to take this one. I'm going to grab that from that snapping cursor and snap it right in there. And now I'm going to tell it to go to, I'm going to change my anchor point, put the anchor point there because that's where I just put that. That's where I want it. I want that to stay there. And I'm going to change the width of it to 23 millimeters. There's how far that piece sticks out. And I will come in here and let's go over here and measure, because I done forgot what. Come on, mouse. There we go. From here straight up, holding shift, go straight up. That's 5 mil. All right. So set my move tab. Control arrow is 1 mil. I will just grab that circle, duplicate it, bring that over here. I can snap it. If my mouse will work. I'm really handicapping myself. Well, I was just do it this way, horizontal and to the right. There we go. And now select it and control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's where that pivot's going to be. And if I really want to make this look right, let's go ahead and change this to 20 mil and anchor there is fine. Yep. And height is 20 mil. There we go. And why not? We'll go ahead and put that profile or that radius on there. There and there. That way, if anybody has a problem visualizing what I'm doing, making it as accurate as possible. Obviously, the tab's not that big. The tab would be 10 millimeters. But now you can see where this is going to be positioned. So this is going to, if right now, with the ears being all the way up the top, then this is where I was like, well, how do I get that? How do I get this lined up where I want it to be? Because there, that snapping cursor puts the top of that corner in the center, but that's not where it goes. That's not where that belongs. So how do I get that position just right? And this is where I found a new use for Control 2. And swap. So what I did was just drew me a pencil or a straight line. Then I took that straight line. Do I want? No, it couldn't be a straight line. Take that back. And I'm still not got that fixed. In fact, what I'm struggling with, boys and girls, is right now the settings on this, it stays on whatever you have selected until you go back and select the selector tool. But I think is it in gears? I can't remember where it's at. That's why I don't. Let's go to wrench first to see. Where? No, I don't see it there. So let's go back in the. I hate that they've put so much into this now. You can't find everything. Ignore out of bounds, invert. Default cut selected shape state. No, that's all I want. Default. Save. Anybody that knows exactly where this setting's at, Chris? Anybody where it will switch back to the selector? Speak up for now or forever hold your peace. I'll make a check. System auto launch play. Don't let start save. Use. I pass. Switch to select mode. There we go. That's it right there. Yep, that's it. Switch. It's cut off. That's why I couldn't tell what it was. Switch to select mode after drawing a shape is what that says right there. So you turn that on and say, okay. And now, like where I drew a line just a second ago, and then I thought I was done. Well, it's still on there. It didn't go back. Is it only after you do a shape? Sure enough, I learned something new tonight. That's kind of a funky thing, Chris. It'll go back to the selector tool after you create a shape, but it won't do it after you draw a line. All right. Well, delete that. That's not what I want. Actually, it is what I want right now. I'm going to draw a 10 millimeter by 3 millimeter rectangle because that, not 30, 3 by 10. And if I put that in the bullseye of this, is that a 10 millimeter circle? It is. All right. So there's that. Now I can select that piece and rotate it to the, I don't know what, I forget what I did now. We'll rotate it to 15 degrees. And I'm going to do it counter. So I'm going to go negative 15. And I had my anchor point in the wrong place. I did something wrong. Control Z, undo it. Anchor point needs to be in the center, and I need to rotate it negative 15 degrees. There we go. And now I got to figure out, I was like, how can I get that all line? And I said, well, easy peasy. I can take and drop that corner on that corner. Come on. And then this is what they want control use for. Control 2. Select your first point, which is that corner. Then come down here and grab it right there on the dotted line and bring it up to where it needs to be. Done. So now that gives me the right angle that I want that kickstand to be at in relation to the back of it. So there, from there up to here is how much longer I need this piece to be. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to rotate it back 15 degrees because I may or may not want that here in a minute. And I'm going to change it just in case. Rotate that back 15, and I'm going to change the width of it. No, I'm not. I'll leave it alone. I'll put it on toolpath and turn it off, just in case I ever do want it again. Cuts and layers, turn that off, done. All right. Now, this was where before, in order to extend that up there, because right now, if you grab that and you just start stretching it up, you change everything. You change your angle, you change the width of your piece. That don't work. So what I used to do was grab every bit of it, rotate every bit of it back to where this was completely horizontal, then stretch it, then rotate it back. But I don't have to do that. I know, Chris, it says shape. I see. Well, actually, it don't. It says shh. Shh. And then I guess you can assume what the rest of the shh means. But anyway, this is what I figured out in this design working this time. And I thought, oh man, this is slick because I'm lazy. Right now, I'm going to bring in a horizontal path and I'm going to put it right there with that line. Because right now I can already tell this, when I extend this out, it's going to go beyond this piece right here. How far is it going to go? Don't know. We're getting ready to find out. Well, this is a shape because I drew it with the rectangle tool. Because it's a shape, it doesn't have any nodes. I've got to convert it to a path. So right click, convert to a path. Show me the nodes. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit B for break and E for extend. And hit E for extend again. And again, hovering over this one. Then come over here to this and hit B for break. And hit E for extend. And I hover over that one again and hit extend. And look up there. It extends all the way up to where it needs to go. I don't need that line right there. But I do need to know the angle. So you know what? I do need that line. I'm going to take that line. And I'm going to bring it to where that line intersects at that corner. I'm going to snap that corner to that corner. And then use my scissors to go clip and clip. And that quick, now I know how long that's got to extend beyond that point in order for it to have a contact point that keeps it from rotating any further than I need it to. That's pretty slick. I was like, I like that. What? Because your waist goes to your lowest corner because you're not going to be able to change it. That's going to be cut out. You know, that's you can't have an angled cut on your piece from that laser. It's laying flat. So that's where it goes at your lowest contact point. Bring that wasted line up there, cut it, done. So simple. When I seen that, I was like, man, that is a whole lot easier than all the rotating and twisting and thinking and remembering, well, what was the angle I rotated it? And if you don't, you have to go and find it and click it back. I was like, good job. I was proud of myself on that one. So, but now we've extended it, so now we know where our length is, but we don't have our tabs back in the right spot. And it's a good thing. Let's go back to our selector tool and let's turn that back on. And let's take and select just this piece. And now, oh, this is what it was. Well, and actually, I was guilty of thinking Control 2 only worked from a corner to and so you had to have one piece exactly where you wanted it, and then you could drag it down. You don't have to have it at the corner like I did a minute ago. You can do this from this right here. With that selected, Control 2, and just come in here where it intersects. Come up here and grab it, and it'll rotate around to there. And now that's straight up and down where you need it to be. And you can now grab both of those, move them over here out the way, and we made this was going to be 1 inch thick. So I can tell it the width is 25.4 millimeters or 1 inch. This needs to be put on the red path. Move it over, hold shift. Let's see, or select the other one and alt shift H to bring it over. Duplicate that, control D, bring it over. Hold shift, select that, and alt shift H to bring it in. And then weld them all. It didn't weld. And that's what I hate about this. So even though I did alt shift H and brought it right up against it, it still doesn't like it. So you just bring it overboard. Doesn't matter. You've got it where you need it to be. Bring it overboard. Doesn't matter how big it is, and weld it. Done. And for looks and purely looks, come on. It's not letting me do my corner radius. There we go. What did I hit? I must have done something different. And down here, I'm not going to do 5. I'll do 3. I want to keep the base as large as, if I do too large of a radius, then it shortens the flat piece there. And the bigger the radius, the more curve you have, the more inclined it might be to want to maybe rotate. So that right there works. So now I've got a nice rounded corners done. That's positioned right. It's the perfect length. I've got those designed to where I need them. I need to duplicate it. It's 2 of those. It's done. Now here, let's put, I didn't look at that backboard, how high that was. I should have before I did all that, but I'm not going to undo it all. We'll just go back and we'll do another 3 by 10. 3 by 10. Bullseye it in that hole. Too much. Then rotate it 15 degrees. -15. Then I can bring this over here. And control to oh, and look at there, because I took that radius off. Because I took that radius off, now it's going to pivot even further. And I caught it the first time. See how those are square? I didn't think about it tonight because I did that more than 12 hours ago. So I need to get rid of that radius. Oh boy, how difficult is that going to be? You go back to your radius tool, click on it, and right now it's 3. I know that was a 5, but it doesn't matter. I'm on radius tool. I'm just going to click right here, and it gets rid of it. Done. And I've got the wrong corner at the wrong spot. So I'm going to, I've got the right angle though. I need to go back to my selector tool. Come on, grab, come on. Didn't want that angle. Undo, Control Z. I wanted that one. Let's bring that out, and I need to bring this down to here because that's actually where it would be. See there? There you go. That put me back to where I was at. So this piece, in order for that to rest on that, if I want it to be symmetrical, I'd hold my control button and bring it out to there. And that tells me the size of that back piece. We'll do 80 mil, 80 mil, 80 mil. There we go. All right. So let's see here. Got that. Switch. Yes. You went to the outside of brace, not back of sign. Was that intentional? You went to the outside of brace. I don't know where you were at when I did what I did, what you did, what I did. You went to the outside of the brace. Not sure. I missed. It's too far gone. I wonder if Alt Shift H is not working due to padding issue. Like it said it. My padding is 0.0 or 0.0. But that happens. That's never worked 100% of the time. It's always worked hit or miss. And even worse is if you have a group of 8 of them, it might weld in 7 out of 8 or 5 out of 8. So out of routine, I almost always, and I didn't this time because it's just 2 pieces, but I almost always, once I position tabs into place, I'll go ahead and grab them and over extend them into the boundary and then weld them. That way I don't have to go back and fix it because it didn't get it right the first time. It only works 70 to 80% of the time. It's never been 100%. Never. And what's Pop-Up say? See, Pop-Up said reinstalled the updated version 3 times, no luck. Restarted the PC, still no luck. Finally, restarted the app a few more times, and it's finally there. Yeah, I think it was Steve said that was apparently a bug. That's weird. I have not experienced that yet, ever, in any of mine. So, all right, back over here real quick. So I've decided that need to be 80 mil to have that be a contact point. Then I got to come back over here to this, select this, ungroup it, just that piece there. And I need to put my anchor point in the middle and take and tell it the height to be 80 mil. And I don't really need it to be 80 mil. I just need it up to be that tall. It doesn't need to extend that far down. I could if I wanted to. Come in here and just drag that up. As long as I had room for my piece to, have something to glue onto, that would work. And then if you want to make sure your overall length is correct, if this is an 8x10, then it's 8 inches tall. Not 80, 8. And 3 millimeter wide. And I wanted to have, let's get rid of this. And I'm going to grab all of that and group it. And I'm going to start cussing my mouse, put it at the same height, and Alt Shift H to bring it together. Go in here and set my move tab. That's already at 25 out of work. If I select that and go 1, 2, that brings it down 2 inches to where that mounts. So that's obviously way too long at this point. So, and and actually, this actually points out something else that I failed to do. And this is why you should, when you're designing, you want to try and think about as much as possible ahead of time. But then when I got to this point, I was like, okay, let's see where it's going to fit on the piece. And now I'm looking at it, it's like, wait a minute, that thing's standing straight up. I don't want it to stand straight up. I need it to be laid back there. I forgot to recline that piece to begin with before I figured my angles out. But you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater if you're comfortable using your node editing. I was wondering why that piece went up so far. It's because I didn't have it reclined before I extended it. But watch this. Come to Papa. Select every bit of it. Group all that together. Let's take this. We're going to move it out the way. And right now, I'm going to rotate this entire thing back 15 degrees. So I'm going to rotate that back 15. So there's about where I want that to be. And now you see we're straight up with our kickstand. And our kickstand doesn't need to be straight up there. We need to have it at an angle as well. So what I can do is grab this, ungroup it again, and I'm going to grab this one. That was my tool path, and it's straight up and down now. I'm going to rotate that one negative 15 degrees. And you know what? I'm going to do them both. I'm going to grab them both. I'll grab this and this and do negative 15 degrees and see what I get here. Yeah, that's what I thought. That moves it out of place. I don't want to do that. That's why I've got my tool path. Rotate that, anchor point in the middle, negative 15 degrees. And now I can take that there, put it on the corner, and, well, actually, before I do that, let's bring it up here where I can rotate it properly. I'll put it on that corner, Control 2, anchor point, rotate it, select that spot, and then rotate it around, and then put it back in the proper position. And now you can see where it needs to stop. It only needs to extend up to right there. So I'm going to go to node editing one time, and I'm going to get rid of these guys. Letter D. And then I'm not going to worry about the radius on this right now. And here I'm having to do some work because I didn't think about that recline first. I do about 60% up, Ed. So I glue that backboard piece. It would appear to be about on this 10-inch piece, it would be about 6 or 6.5 inches up the back. At the top of the kickstand, might be a small hole for hanging. Oh, that would even work too. Yes, sir. That would work. Make the wall hanger out of the kickstand. And Michael saying, from what I recall, Jason Dory saying that Alt-H brings two objects against each other without overlapping. Docking against an object will bring the objects together and overlap the lines. Okay. I'll play with that. I don't know why you wouldn't have Alt-H go ahead and, I don't know why you wouldn't have Alt-H be the same as docking. I don't know why you would have them work differently. I'm sure somebody much smarter than me had a reason when they did it. But because I didn't think about all this, and now I'm having to back out of it, but I'm not having to start over. I'm just going to grab a guideline. I'm going to make sure all that's grouped together, group it all. I'm going to grab a guideline, bring it over here, and I'm going to bring this over here just where it overlaps anywhere. Use a control 2 again to position that intersection, and then rotate this to get this straight up and down for a second. And now that that's straight up and down, I can ungroup it and take this, and I'm going to first use my node editing to grab these 2 top nodes and bring it straight down to where she's coming into contact with there, or very close to it. There we go. And then I can change my anchor point on that to the, anchor point to the left center. There we go. And change the width on it. This is 3, so it'll be a total of say 28 mil width. Well, that is about 28 mil. We'll say 28, not 38. There we go. I'm done with that guideline, and I can actually take that box, duplicate it, Control D, bring it over. In fact, let's try that right here. We're going to put it on the same path, and it's at 3 mil. Instead, before I was taking that and selecting this, let's just try it. And then Alt-Shift-H and tell it to weld together. See, that didn't work. Control Z, undo. Now we're going to select this piece and dock it to the left with 0 padding. Oh, why did it do that? I got 0 padding. No, I don't. That was the edge buffer at 0. I got 3.8. 0 padding. Let's try that again. And now dock it. There we go. Hold shift, select that, and now weld it. See, that didn't work. So, Michael, good suggestion. I would not have thought that. I would never have thought that they were supposed to be different, and they had no different result. And just for giggles, Control Z, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it out any random amount and make sure that my padding's at 0, edge buffer's at 0, and dock it to the left, select it and weld it, and it don't work. Control Z, select that piece, stretch it over, weld them, and they work. I don't know why, but I have run into that so many times that I just automatically stretch it over now. All right, so there. Now I've got that right. I knew that didn't look right. That didn't feel right about being so big. And mine obviously isn't, because I rotated this to begin with. All right. Well, Chris, if that's a bug, my friend, it's been there for quite some time, and it's had babies. Because it's been a long, long time existing. All right. So now I'm going to put this all back up right, because I've got my length right, but I don't have my height correct. So first thing I'm going to do to make sure I get every angle exactly right, I'm going to put that back in a group, and I'm going to bring in a toolpath. I'm going to overlap it anywhere. It doesn't really matter. Zoom in, do Control 2. Actually, I got to select that first, and then Control 2, get my intersection point right there, and then come up here and grab one, click it, and rotate it. That puts everything back up where the face of it's upright. Select the guideline, get rid of it. Select that whole thing, rotate it back 15 degrees. And now grab another toolpath of the guideline and bring it down and snap it right to the bottom of the actual piece. And that is where the height of that piece needs to end. All right. So if I were to take come Papa. Oh, it's all grouped. Dummy. Ungroup. Select that toolpath. And that toolpath right there is the angle. Those are the same angles. That angle is that angle. So if I bring that toolpath right down here to this bottom corner where those overlap and intersect, come on. And my mouse is what's freezing on me, folks. Done. All right, there. I can turn that to that, convert it to a path, turn on my nodes, hover over it, hit B for break and E for extend. And then use my scissors to cut away that. Come on. That and that. There is my kickstand. And that didn't need to be that big. Now let me show you something kind of cool that I figured out with the Cuddle. All right, so I don't need that. That's wrong. These two are correct. Let's bring them up here out of the way for a minute. And there we go. I no longer need that. That goes there. Now, I'm going to go back to that design. Web Tools, Cuddle. And I'm going to make this 8 by 10. Right now it's 10 by 10, but I want it to be 8. So change that in real time. Done. That's 8 by 10. And send to LightBurn. We're not going to fool around with this much tonight. But this is the backboard. And as I said, I would not waste my time with the marking. Ungroup all of that. I would delete that. I would use this as my template to know where that needs to glue up. And I'm going to look here within my template. Do I have a place? Now, this is a lot of names. So there's nowhere this will fit. Will it fit if I rotate it right there? Come here, baby. Too far. It will if I change the width of it. And I can. I mean, it almost fits there. I'm not going to go to trouble right now, but actually, you know what? I wonder if I put that right on that line. Come on. And I think after everything I've experienced today with the computer and the power crashing, yeah, that'll work. So that would work and cut out. Then I could grab this one, put it anywhere in here, and grab that one, put it in here, and grab that. Now, when this cuts out, it's going to cut out the outer frame with the Nana and the grandkids. That'll be a usable outer perimeter that's going to be at the top layer. This is the back layer. You're only going to cut the back layer out. You're going to, I would take and draw a straight line from there. Oh, sorry. And I'll have to move it up to get it past that piece there. And because by doing that, it will, I don't have to try and fit Nana and Papa's back together as part of the puzzle. So if I just cleared that off. Like that. That area of waste will fall away and be free and clear, leaving me just a piece that I can lay right back in on top once I glue the frame to this piece to give me an alignment tool to put that in a perfect position. And I got my kickstand. Why not draw a line across the bottom of the sign and move the stand up? And because it would also change your would that change how that might would have worked too, Carl. How long it's sticking out way long. And if I move that up, no, because it changes. It's what I was talking about here. In fact, if you look like right now, you have to imagine a straight line at the from this palm coming straight over. Down here is the bottom of that piece. And let's turn your comment off. Here's the bottom of the piece. Here's the bottom of the kickstand. And if it's too long, as I start moving it up, sliding it up, see how close the distance is from here to here. As I start moving it up, see how wider the triangle gets from here to here. That's going to change how much shelf space is required by not shortening that. So it would have worked. By all means, you could have just taken that and slid it right up there and glued it in a different place. But now, instead of it being 2 inches here, it's going to go to 4 inches here. So that's why I did that. But I had to think that I was like, and I answered that in the beginning, but maybe you didn't quite, because that was part of the whole reason of how long is it going to be, and how, because you right out of the gate before you start doing anything, it's okay. Where is this going to go? Where do I want position? How much room do I have? Not all that's cutting in there. All the red's cutting, the black is engraving, and the blue's engraving too. We'll go back over here. There's 3 layers there. The red is cutting, but then you've got the blue that's going to score and engrave the individual tiles, and then the black, of course, is another engraving, so that you get, the look of individual Scrabble tiles. The lowest you can move the kickstand is midpoint of puzzle, still be stable, and get the shortest leg. Okay. And that's why I said I was going about 60% up, 60 to 70% up. Because I didn't want it. I knew that if it's too short, it's going to start becoming unstable. Don't have, other than the fact of just experience of putting stuff together. I don't have any engineering degrees. I just know that the longer my brace is, the sturdier it is. Yeah, sure, whatever. I know you were yelling at me. I meant to flip the kickstand on the tabs so there's more room to kickstand. Let's see. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? I meant flip the kickstand so the tabs have more room to fit. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. It would have. Yep. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. And what he's talking about there. Well, it got a little bit better, but still, but yeah, that would work. All right. Now what I would do after I've done all that, and I'm like, okay, that works. It's a nice kickstand. I don't want to do this again. Oh, they're not grouped. Got to make sure they're grouped first. Nope, not that. Control Z, group, and group. Now align. Bring those over here. Art library. I'm going to come down here to my signs. If my scroll button will work. Signs. Here's a whole bunch of signs. I don't want to put it there. That's not what I was looking for. You know what? I'm just going to do a new one. I'm going to go into art, like right here in my art library folder. I'm going to click new. And then wherever I have all of my art libraries, I want to make sure that's where I'm creating this. And my art libraries are currently in my, let's see, desktop, LightBurn, art library there. And I want to call this one kickstands. And that's the name of the library. And I'm going to save. That's saved. It created the new kickstand library and it's right there. Now I'm going to select all of this and I'm going to tell it to import to project or from project. And now I got to name it. This is going to be an 8x10 landscape. Is it no? Yeah, landscape. And you can put a space in there. And say, okay. Now, anytime I make any 8x10 project, it doesn't matter if it's this Scrabble board or if it's a welcome sign or it's a kick rocks and get out sign, whatever sign you want to make. If it's an 8x10, that's the perfect kickstand for it. All you got to do is go to your art library, click, bring it in, done. You don't got to go to Cuddle. You don't got to go anywhere. You can, if you don't want to go to trouble designing stuff like this, you can do something for those simple tools like that for the actual kickstand that's in Cuddle. You can bring it into LightBurn, make sure it's exactly the way you want it to be for your pieces, then create that library, save it in that library. Now you've got that ready just to click and bring in. You don't even have to go get it from Cuddle or anywhere else. All right. All right. We are done with that. And I've got that saved in my library. That's done. Now, we are a little longer than 90 minutes already. But if the 40 some of you, 50 of you that are still here, if you're interested, I mentioned in the email that I sent out. So if you're not a member, if you are a member on hobowithwood.com, you should have gotten an email that we were going live at 8 o'clock. If you're not a member on hobowithwood.com, please go to hobowithwood.com and become a member. Becoming a member on hobowithwood.com will get you discounts off of all the digital files. There are 3 tiers: gold, silver, and bronze. 60% off on bronze, 80% off on silver. And if you do gold, it's 100% free on all of the digital downloads. But in the email that I sent out to everyone, all the members, I mentioned that if there was time and if there was any interest, there's one chapter in here. And Chris is saying book, 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 book. And I'm going to turn the comments off for a second. There's a chapter in here that you're in. You. Not Hobo Nation, specifically you. You're in it. Bob, you're in it. Chris, you're in it. You're in here. I didn't know at the time that I was talking about you, but you're in this book. And I'm going to need to give you a little bit of backstory before I start this chapter. It's only a 4-page chapter. It's a relatively short chapter. All of them are. There's, I think, 40 chapters, 40 or 42 chapters, but they're short. Some of them are only a page or 2, and some of them are 7 or 8. This one's right in the middle. But small backstory before we jump into this one. This is picking up when I'm laying in the hospital bed, and just come to, and I've been told that I owe $320,000 that I've got to pay out of my pocket for all of the surgeries that I've had, and I ain't got it. And I told the woman I ain't got it. I said, you'll just have to get in line, and I'll pay you when I can, but I ain't got $320,000. And she said that she'd go out and find it for me. And I said, no, you won't. You will not find anybody that's going to give me any money, because I am a single white man with no kids and too many assets. I don't have any cash. I'm cash poor and asset rich. I said, I could liquidate everything I have and pay the bill. I said, and because of that, nobody's going to step up and say, well, we're not going to give you any money to help him out because he's got this nice car and he's got this nice house. He's got this, he's got that. He don't need any help. So I told her, I said, yeah, that's it. And she was a young black woman. I said, yes. And they're not going to help me because I'm a single white man with no kids. And it's not about race, but that is the lowest position. It's actually the highest position on a totem pole. Because if you don't know this, the lowest position on a totem pole is the most respected. It's the one that's been there the longest. Totem poles are built from the ground up. The one on the lowest is the highest, most respected person on the totem pole. So I'm at the top of the totem pole. I got no respect. So that's where this picks up. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a couple of things. First, swap. So there's the book. It'll be better tomorrow. And we're going to start with this chapter. I've just told her I can't get no help. And she finally come in there and told me, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to be able to find you any help whatsoever. And the crazy thing is, because they could not find me any help, the hospital was willing to write off 80% of the bill. I owed them $320. And then when they realized they cannot get money from anybody else, that nobody's going to help me. The state's not going to help me. The government's not going to help me. None of the local charities are going to help me. Everybody has said, I'm out. The hospital then said, all right, we'll write off 80% of your bill. You now only owe 20%. So I went from owing $320,000 to around $60,000 to $70,000 plus all their final fees and this and that. I owed around 80 to just under $90,000 or so. So it was a blessing. And that's what we pick up here. I don't like being in debt. I never have. And the morning I got home from the hospital, I started selling. The dream car went first. I had cherished that car in a way that had nothing to do with its value on paper and everything to do with what it meant to me to own it. And it went. Then the furniture, then anything that was load bearing to the operation of the business sold. Friends donated, family contributed, and I was grateful for every dollar, and I did not slow down. I was not making monthly payments. Monthly payments was too slow. I was going in weekly, sometimes more, which meant I was seeing Teresa regularly with for the better part of the recovery period, my physical recovery period. And this isn't a book, clarifying her name is Teresa. That's the girl who was helping me in the billing department. You spend that much time in someone's office under those circumstances, and a conversation develops. She knew my medical history. She knew my finances. She knew more about the internal workings of my life than most people who had known me for years. At some point during those visits, she mentioned her father, told me he did all of his business at my shop. When she told me his name, I knew him immediately. He was a senior customer. He moved with a walker and at roughly about 1 mile an hour on a good day. He was self-reliant, independent. He did as he wanted and came and went as he pleased. The kind of man you notice because he doesn't ask for anything and you find yourself wanting to offer it anyway. Now, I want to be clear about the timeline here because it matters. Everything that follows happened long before I was ever in the hospital bed. It happened because he was a customer. He was a senior and he was alone. That was the beginning and the end of my reasoning. One afternoon, while his vehicle was being serviced, he mentioned that his phone bill had gotten expensive. I asked him if he meant his cell phone. He said no, the phone in his apartment. And I asked him, I said, you have a cell phone too? And he says, yes. I said, why do you have both? He looked at me the way people look when someone just turned on a light in a room that had been dark for so long they forgot there was a switch. It had never occurred to him that the landline was redundant. He canceled it before he left the shop that day. On another visit, he brought up his cable bill. I asked him what he thought about the picture quality on the television in the waiting room. He said it looked fine. He liked it. I told him it was an HD aerial antenna pulling over the air HD broadcast. No cable, no subscription, just an antenna that cost less than $100 and pulled in more channels than most people watched. He was skeptical until I walked him through what was available. And several of his regular programs were on free over-the-air HD. He ordered the antenna. When it arrived, he had no idea how to set it up. He asked if I could help. I went to his apartment, got it configured, scanned all the channels, made sure everything worked before I left. Between the landline and the cable, he had put a meaningful amount of money back into his monthly budget. He was pleased, and he told me so more than once. And when people express gratitude for things like that, I always told them the same thing, that I was doing it for purely selfish reasons. I was looking out for myself. And what I meant by that was simple. When I looked at him, I saw myself. I knew with certainty that one day I was going to be old and alone. One day with no one positioned to look after me. I had known for a long time So I started early. I paid it forward every chance I got. I should mention that Teresa is a black woman, and I point that out only to be clear about what I meant when I said no one was going to have sympathy on a single white man with no children. I wasn't making a comment about her. I was making a comment about the government assistance programs. Those programs are built on categories, race, family, status, income on paper, and I had assets, and that disqualified me. Regardless of anything else, no program exists for someone in my situation, and Teresa confirmed what I already knew. She also knew I wasn't racist. She knew because of her father, an elderly black man that I had gone out of my way to help simply because he was a customer, he was a senior, and he was alone for no other reason. And she seen evidence of that before she ever walked into my room. Her name was Teresa. So was my mother's. And I've spent a lifetime being failed by one and a moment being helped by another. Same name, completely different people. I paid that debt off faster than anyone expected. When that bill was paid, I turned my attention to something that had been sitting on me almost as heavily as the debt itself. Friends and family had contributed along the way, meaningful amounts, given freely and without expectation. And I was grateful for every dollar. And I did not take a single one of them lightly. But once I was stable and on stable ground, the weight of those gifts did not lift in the way I expected it to. It settled in a different kind of debt, one that didn't show up on a statement, but it was just as present. I went to everyone who had made a substantial contribution. And I told them I was grateful for what they had done when they'd done it, and that it had mattered. But that, but now that I was standing on my own feet, I needed to do one of two things: pay them back or pass it on. If paying them back felt like an insult, I wanted them to know the money wasn't going to sit in my pocket. It was going somewhere it was needed. They told me it was a gift, every one of them. One of the bartenders at a pub I had been frequenting was facing a hip replacement. She was going to be out of work and without income for a stretch, with no cushion beneath her. We weren't friends. I knew her from the bar. I knew her situation, knew she was going to be in financial distress for a while. A group had come together trying to ease that burden. The donations I received and no longer felt right holding on to came to $7,000. I gave it to her in cash. Before I handed it over to her, I told her where it came from, that it had started out as a blessing someone had extended to me without expectation of return, that the people who gave it to me had loved the idea of it going forward rather than coming back. So I was giving it to her with one condition. She never, if she ever felt the need to repay me, she couldn't. Instead, find someone in similar position one day and do the same thing. Pay it forward. She was extremely grateful and understood the liability that came with accepting that gift. The pub she was working for went out of business. That combined with changing of my lifestyle after my heart attacks, I never saw her again. I don't know if she continued to pay it forward, and it doesn't matter. That's how it's supposed to work. Sorry. So this will be available soon, very soon. I'll probably get the website up and going so that I was trying to do pre-orders, but pre-orders was actually going to cost me. But if I figure out a way that I can allow it to do back orders, I can create back orders as pre-orders. So I do plan to do an audiobook, but that might be hard to do. Some of it's really, really, really funny. Some of it is a bit embarrassing. I do not, it's a completely honest recap of from the time I was born until the time I had to sell everything. That paying it forward is, paying it forward is not in this book because it got scrapped. Let me go back over here. I think paying it forward is like next to the last chapter. Come on, puppy. Paying it forward. No, there's 3 chapters after paying it forward. So that's getting close to the end of the book. This book. The second book, which will be How I Became a Hobo, picks up where this left off and will transition through this period of life. So anyway, yeah, it's ridiculous. That made me so angry. And I talk about that in the book too. Well, both of those options will be on the site. The stock is at 0 and every order, but I've the WooCommerce that I'm using, they have a feature where they'll allow you to do pre-orders, but I have to buy that plugin to allow it to do pre-orders. So I've got to go in and see if I can configure the current option that I have to allow it to for it to be to allow it to have back orders. I don't know right now if it shows 0, it says unavailable. And so it says you can't order. So I've got to figure out how to turn that off to allow back orders. And then back orders would be just pre-sales. I just got to figure out how to make that happen. So anyway, I one to keep and one to read. Yeah, and I'll tell you, my biggest concern about this book is not about any of the content, not about any of the revelations that I put out there about me or my life choices. My biggest reservation and my biggest concern about this book, people are going to miss things. People are not going to understand. They'll see it. Every story hits, every chapter hits, every chapter is a new story. But they don't, every chapter it lands. It's I mean, I'm really, really proud of this. Especially since it's my very first attempt at putting anything on paper of this level. But chapter 1 ties into the next to the last chapter. The very first chapter starts a thread that comes back together in the next to the last chapter. Chapter 3 might have a thread that ties to something in chapter 12. And I don't think everybody will connect the threads, not on the first read through. In fact, some of the reviews that you've seen me posting out there, I've been sharing this completed work with several different AIs to get the opinion from an AI about what the book is. How does it? I ask it for a complete and thorough evaluation. It was my first attempt, and it would come back with all kinds of criticisms and tell me, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. That's a no-no. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do this, and I wouldn't do that." And then when I explained to it that without this, then this loses the weight of that, and then it's like, wait a minute, I didn't catch those time. The AIs weren't catching the threads. But then once I pointed it out, and it's like, okay, now when I go back and reread it for the second time, holy smoke, it changes everything. And I said, yeah, and that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of people are going to read it and go, well, that was good, but they're not going to get the full weight of it until they go back and read it the second time and say, okay, now I'm seeing that goes back and how that all goes together. And in several comments, it said, yeah, this is not one that you read once. You'll have to read it twice and maybe even a third time before you start seeing all of the puzzles coming together, because they're throughout the book. They're numerous. And one of the AIs, or no, two of the AIs even told me, said that this isn't really memoir material quantity wise. It's about half the quantity of a regular or a typical memoir. And I'm like, well, and I explained, okay, well, this is the first of three. And I told it what was going on and how I was planning on doing it. And it said, oh, well, then never mind. I'll take back everything I said, do exactly what you said. You've got the right idea, the right plan, the right everything. So, and I did the formatting with you in mind and me. I've got my reading glasses on and I can see this. I went with a fairly large font size and ample line spacing, so it's easy for us old farts to read. Because I'll be completely and totally honest with you, other than a few friends on Facebook local that might be interested to read it to see if they're in it or not, you're my number one target audience. And if it gets enough traction, there's 12,000 plus subscribers to Hobo with Wood. If I get 10% of that, if I get 1,200 of them sold, that's significant for a first-time author that's self-published. And then I might be able to take that and say, hey, look, might actually show it to a real publisher and it might get some decent traction whenever the second one's ready. I might be able to take the first book with the previous sales and the new book, and I don't know. But it's been very, very therapeutic, very cathartic, and a joy to do. It really has been. I think Terry said, when do you have time to do that? Well, I'll be in here at 2:00 this morning, working on the second book. Dad just went through, he's back and forth to the bathroom all night, but he's done for the night other than going to the bathroom. So I can sit here and work. And if I'm going to do an audio book, it's 10:00. It's probably not going to be out until after midnight that it gets quiet enough for me to record with no ambient noise and traffic and motorcycles blasting through. So, let's see here. Well, thank you, Ed. And I'm counting on it. Yeah. And that's, I didn't want to give away a whole lot of the previous, but needing to know the previous chapter leading up to it, because that one, paying it forward, is a continuation of the second or the previous chapter, but the chapter before that had nothing to do with it. So there's one or two chapters where it'd be like that, where one is necessary, feeds off the other, but then I talk about everything. There's chapters in here that talk about the acting career and the TV, the film, the movies, uh, the marriage, uh, the divorce, um, and AI really pushed back on that. AI was like, uh, that was one of the critiques that several of them did in the review. Is like, well, we don't feel like you gave enough information about your marriage and the relationship and that. And I said, so yeah, because it didn't last a freaking year. She cheated on me and it didn't last a year and she was gone and she's got mental issues. She's been married 5 times. Why am I going to give her any more page time than I already have? The book's not about her. She was an impact on my life and she made an impression, but it was this big. She's in it. She's done. She's gone. She's out. And that's all you see. And it said, well, yeah, you're right. It's not about her. And I painted it and it's done. Nothing else needs to be said about it. She doesn't need to be dwelled on. And what else? Like I said, it starts from the time I was born, my preschool years, my grade school years, junior high school, into college. I mean, up until 2019 when I had to sell the business. So it spans 50 years, 40 years, 50 years. How long does that go? I got to do math. Calculator. 2019. 50 years. This book spans 50 years in 200 pages, 220 pages. So that's a lot of pages or a lot of years, a lot of 5 decades condensed to that. And that's why it's going to be a trilogy. So anyway. I seen a question. Who wrote the review, friend or an editor? Some of the reviews are from friends. Some of the reviews are from AIs. Because I've been posting several reviews in different places. And in one of the chapters in here, I talk about the contrast between 2 different English teachers I had in high school. One of them was terrible. One of them was 180 opposite. Well, that teacher who was such a positive impression on me, I actually tracked her down and took her one of the first manuscripts and asked her to read it and go over it and give me some criticisms and critiques. And that was the first time I'd seen her since 1987. And so she was kind of taken back. It's like, wow, you wrote a book? You wrote a book. The guy who only had 4 periods in high school because he didn't want to do anything. And we remember how lazy he was. And you wrote a book. And I'm in it. So she was surprised on many, many levels. But she's helped me out. She helped me out immensely back then. She helped me out a lot with this. But no editor other than that. I mean, as far as what it is me, brother. There was some pushback on a lot of the stuff and about a lot of the, way that, because there was another one of the things that it pushed back on was the some of the repetition. And it said it's almost becomes mechanical. And I said, because it is. It is the way I work, the way my mind works. It is. It's like a machine. It's mechanical. I go through something. I experience something. I learn something. I filed away. I go through something. I learned through something. I figured something out. I filed away. It gets filed. I store it. I filed away. Move on. Filed away. So there's that phrase, that was filed that one. That is used in a lot of the endings of some of the chapters, and AI pushed back, said that's, and I said, no, that's me. And that's how my mind works. It is mechanical. That's how it works. And then it says, okay. And then it started listing about 6 or 7 different known reputable authors who use that same technique. And I said, well, it's not a technique. It's just who I am. And so, anytime AI slammed me on something, I could provide it with an argument about why it's there, why it existed. And it would be like, yeah, it's a pretty darn good reason. Never mind. Forget what I said. Come on, stupid mouse. Well, thank you, Kevin, and God bless you, sir. You formatted in YouTube chat format. Okay. I don't quite sure follow you 100% there, but pop, as soon as I can figure out a way to make the pre-sales happen, I'll put it on the Facebook, YouTube, I'll put it on the Facebook group. That'd be the first place that anybody knows about it. But if you don't have access to the Facebook group, as soon as it's available, I'll make it make everybody aware. In fact, I might even do a special video just about this and the fact that that it is available for pre-sale. Hey, Jay, it could have been. Mine was married 5 times. All right. Hey, wow, man. Well, I'll say this, Carl, and then we're going to get off here. These machines and all this stuff is ridiculous. The way that they have everything priced. I've told this story once before, but I broke my foot. My brother is a PA. He is a orthopedic surgeon. But before he was a surgeon, he worked in the orthopedics office, and he provided all of the apparatuses, all of the slings, all of the walking boots, all of the strollers, any of the equipment needed for care or post-surgery stuff. He provided that to the doctor's offices. And we knew going in that I had a broke foot. And he told me, he said, when you get in there and they confirm you got a broke foot and you need a walking boot, tell them you've already got one at home. And I said, okay. Why? He said, just tell me you got one at home and he said, I'll bring it to your house. I said, okay. And they did. And they said, yeah, you need a boot. I said, okay. So I called him when I got home and said, yeah, I need that boot. He showed up with the boot, put it on, and it made all the difference in the world. And I said, why did we do this? He said, because if you would have had them write you a prescription for the boot, it would have come from me anyway. And I gave it to them. They would have gave it to you. They'd have billed you. And he said, and it would have ended up costing you, I don't know, it was something stupid, $400 or $500. It might have been even closer to $800. And I said, well, good Lord. I said, what I owe you? And he said, you owe me $12. I said, what? He said, my cost on that boot is $12. I said, then how come they're billing it out at whatever it was? He said, because the doctors don't set the prices. Medicaid and Medicare set all the prices. The government sets the prices on what that stuff is sold for. So they bill it out at 1,500% of what it should be, so that when they have to give it away to people who are on the system, who are on the teat, people who aren't on the teat are paying for everybody else's. So it's ridiculous. Well, I hate to hear that, Jack, but I tell you what, boy, when you got a broken foot, and I don't understand the physics in it, but trying to walk on that without that boot is excruciating. But you can put that boot on and you can dance a jig. You don't have any pain whatsoever in that boot. At least I didn't. It was amazing. I couldn't understand the physics behind it because I'm still standing on it. I'm still putting weight on my foot, but it didn't hurt because it was in that boot. It's crazy. Anyway, boys and girls, it has been a pleasure. A few people learned some stuff tonight. It was an honor to share that little bit of the book with you. And I am excited to see how it's received, because like I said, it's raw. It's very raw. All right, we're going to wrap this up. What's Chris saying here? Come on, computer. That is why the government says healthcare is expensive to make universal. Ours is 2% of what? Yeah. Yeah. Has 2 and it's permanent. Oof. All right. Y'all have a good evening. Have a good rest of the week. And we'll see what next week has in store. God only knows.